Hello and welcome to race number 4 of this nr2003-2007, but we follow the 2026 scheduled season. This is the first race with the CLT, and Jeff Gordon has put it on the pole position. Before we do get into the point standings heading into this race, the starting grid, let's take a look at the points heading into this race. On the pole is Jeff Gordon, as aforementioned, with Denny Hamlin beside him. Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr. make up row number 2 with Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch in row 3. Ryan Newman and Mike Martin make up row 4 with Matt Kenseth and Clint Bowyer behind them. Jamie McMurray and Sterling Marlin in row number 6 with J.J. Yeley and Jeff Burton, last week's winner, in row number 7. Kurt Busch and Kevin Harvick make up row number 8, and Casey Kane and Jimmy Johnson in row 9. Johnson had a bit of a mediocre qualifying effort. Casey Mears and David Reagan in row 10 with Jeff Green and Greg Biffle in row 11. Bobby O'Bonney and Carl Edwards in row number 12 with Johnny Sauter and Ricky Rudd in row 13. David Gillen, your Daytona 500 winner, he's crashed out the past 2 weeks, looking to finish one today. He lines up next to Kenny Wallace in row number 14. Kyle Petty and David Ruderman in row 15 with Reed Sorensen and Tony Raines in row 16. Robbie Gordon and Scott Riggs in row numbers 17, with Michael Waltrip and David Stremme with Joe Nemechek and Michael Waltrip behind them. The Ganassi teammates of David Stremme and Juan Montoya make up row number 19, with Dale Jarrett and Ken Schrader in row number 20. Row 21 is Dave Blaney next to Paul Menard, and at the back of the grid in row 22 is Elliott Sadler. Now, let's go down trackside with a command to fire up these engines.
Drivers, start your engines!
And the engines are fired up from Phoenix. As we prepare to watch the grid roll off pit road. So as mentioned, it's the debut of the CLT in this series. It will be run several times throughout the season, but this is the first instance of this. 3 stages, 35, 86, 141, and you gotta keep it out of trouble if you want to survive this race, because we expect plenty of caution. Jeff Gordon will lead us to the green flag here today. For his 141 lap race, can anyone beat the 24? He's been fast all weekend. Here we come for 3 and 4. Green flags in the air. Gordon leads us to it. Offering the 1 and 2 they go as Gordon ahead of Stewart. Stewart may look for a move for the lead in turn number 1. He will, as the 24 goes up the hill, but Martin Truex Jr. also making a move on Tony Stewart. Hurts his momentum. Stewart looking for a move on Gordon for the lead into 3. Stewart to the inside on Jeff Gordon as they come across the stripe. It's going to be Gordon leading lap number 1. Barely over the 20 of Tony Stewart. Gordon and Stewart side by side through 1 and 2 again. Stewart now nosing head on the bottom. Gordon still trying to hang tough outside. He's got a bit of a run here for 3 and 4, but it's going to be Stewart who leads lap number 2. Can Gordon drive it in just a little deeper on the top side and potentially clear Stewart off 1 and 2, or are they going to remain side by side? They will just remain side by side, but Stewart's getting closer to being clear for the race lead. But Gordon's just driving it in that much deeper. He noses ahead of Stewart just for a second. Overdrives the corner, but Stewart finally clears into the race lead. Can Gordon try to cross over? No, he runs high through 1 and 2, trying to get to the right rear quarter of Tony Stewart. looking inside on Stewart for the race lead again. They're going to run side by side towards turn number 1 as Hamlin looks inside of Truex for third. Stewart runs wide. Gordon's going to easily get the pass done. They're not going to run side by side for several laps this time. But can Stewart get back to him? Now, so you look further back through the field for the progress on Jimmy Johnson, who is currently up to the 12th position, looking to crack the top 10 already. Johnson plus 6 already, looking to be plus 8 as they come off turn number 2. He's going to get by McMurray for 11th. He may get by Mark Martin for 10th. He's going to be next to the 01 car. Johnson going to drive it in a little deeper. Martin up the hill, but Johnson's going to clear for the 10th spot. Dale Jarrett coming off pit road. He seems to have had an issue. So has the 78 of Kenny Wallace. Dave Blaney firing one up the inside back there. Sauter had a good qualifying effort. He's dropped back a couple spots. And it seems that we had one around here off turn 2 last time by. So let's see if we can get a look at this. It seems to have come from this area. So we saw a huge move from Dave Blaney. No, it was from further up the road. Was it Bobby O'Bonney who went for a little bit of a slide? It was. Mears made contact with O'Bonney, but the caution was not called for it because O'Bonney got straightened out pretty quickly. Interesting decision to not call it. You know, you think there might be some debris on the track, but I guess they did not think so. Johnson up to 9th now, and we're only 10 laps in. Gordon way up the racetrack. Stewart's going to look low because of this. Kenseth also went way up the hill. Kyle Busch makes contact with him. Kyle Busch making contact with Matt Kenseth. Johnson wants to split them 3 wide. Johnson may have the best car out here so far. There's plenty of time to make adjustments in the pits though. Well, he split them. Johnson looking 3 wide. He does split them 3 wide into turn number 3 for P7. Oh, Gordon got hung up by Dale Jarrett in the 44 car. Going to allow Stewart to close in a little bit. Already in the lap traffic on lap number 12 of this race. As we continue to look through the field. Martin looking to make a pass on Clint Boyer, can't quite make it happen. And now Newman getting around Dale Jarrett to lap him. Gordon seems to be pulling away from Tony Stewart. Now Stewart led the 2 of the opening 4 laps, and then Gordon has just taken off with it since then. Hamlin looking low on Tony Stewart for 1 and 2, and Johnson is side by side with Earnhardt Jr. He's going to use the 44 of Dale Jarrett as a pick. So Johnson gets by Earnhardt, and there's a caution on the speedway. David Gillen, who has had no luck since his Daytona 500, that continues. The 38 car goes around off turn number 2 with Bobby O'Bonney. Let's take a look at what happened. Let's actually rewind a little bit more. Gilliland was way up the hill. Contact with Bobby O'Bonney sends both of them around. And Gilliland gets hit by David Rudiman and clipped by Tony Raines there at the end. And then Dave Blaney gets into the back of Scott Riggs. And now the field coming down pit road for the first pit stops of the night. The free pass, we'll see who that goes to. Meanwhile on pit road, it looks like Jeff Gordon, Denny Hamlin, Tony Stewart all getting service. Gordon easily wins the race off pit road. And Hamlin is going to come out ahead of his teammate Tony Stewart, though. That's crucial. And the game actually put some cars a lap down that aren't supposed to be a lap down, so we're just running them back onto the lead lap here. '96 is going to get him waved by. As the pace car will now hit pit road. As we get ready for the restart. Here we come, back to the restart zone. Gordon leads them. As they head for 1 and 2, Hamlin now looking for the lead on Jeff Gordon, but Gordon runs a bit high through 1 and 2, and Johnson's going down pit road. Jimmy Johnson with an issue. So too is Michael Waltrip. Huge problem for the 48 car. Sadler and Menard also back down pit road. But now Johnson is going to go a lap down. So huge problems for the 48 car. Whatever that may be he has. But now Hamlin is slotted into second behind Gordon ahead of Stewart. But Stewart's looking for second again. Going to be side by side with his teammate off 2. We'll see if Jimmy Johnson can get out ahead of the race leader and avoid going 2 laps down. He will maybe get ahead of Jeff Gordon. Yes, he will. But can Gordon get around him to lap him? Newman contact with Hamlin off turn 2. Looking for third. He has to back off a little bit. But now Johnson out here. 1 lap down, trying to hang on to it. Michael Waltrip is actually the free pass car currently. So he's trying to pass the 55. Tony Raines is blocking the 55 to the inside wall. And we got one car slow on the racetrack. That is Dale Jarrett, but I don't know if you've seen a caution for that. Yes, so the caution is for Dale Jarrett, Ricky Rudd in the 88. Who has seemingly come to a stop on the racetrack. He was running 34th. Let's see if anything happened to him beforehand. Apparently he had a suspension failure here off 2, couldn't get to the pits. That slows up Kyle Petty. And apparently the damage was bad enough to where he had to come to a complete stop here in turn 3 and 4. Michael Waltrip will be the free pass car. That's big for Jimmy Johnson. And Michael Waltrip is smoking as he comes to pit road. So Johnson is going to stay out. We've got several cars with damage. Boyer, McMurray. Martin is out of the race. Stewart's going to come off pit road ahead of Hamlin. What in the world happened with McMurray and Boyer and others? Come on, let's see what happened. Oh! There were several cars piling it up. Newman went upside down at pit. What in the world? They all just went around the pit entry. Kenny Wallace ends up on David Stremmy's hood. Is that why Johnson skipped pit road? But that just took a ton of cars out of the race. .48 of Jimmy Johnson will not be back on the lead lap, even though, well, yeah, he's not going to pit, so he gets the wave around actually. It's just a bizarre incident that occurred there at pit entry. Ryan Newman out here still after flipping at pit entry. Just like half the field out from that alone, which is again nuts. But the field comes around back to the restart. Jeff Gordon leads Tony Stewart to the green flags. Stewart got a great run there on that restart. He's going to look low into turn number 1. Stewart and Gordon side by side for the race lead in the 1 and 2. Now Hamlin's going to look low. Contact. Stewart's going to go around. He got turned by his teammate Denny Hamlin. Caution's gonna fly. Stewart gets turned for the race lead. And that will not be a fun team meeting on Monday morning. And everyone's going to pit again. If they don't wreck, they'll all survive again. But will that be the stage? Ryan Newman in the 12 will be the free pass car. Well, we'll take a look at these pit stops first before we do take a look at the replay. And Gordon actually lost a ton of spots there on pit road. It's Jeff Burton who comes out with the lead. Let's take a look at what happened to Stewart and Hamlin. It's a JGR implosion off turn number 2. Stewart and Hamlin are running side by side, and Stewart made this turn down into him. But now they've both lost the potential 1-2 at the front of the field. So look, Hamlin's coming up. He's coming up. And Stewart comes down to block. And Stewart doesn't know he's not clear. There's something. But it'll be a couple laps to go to the stage end, as Sterling Marlin is dropping to the rear for some reason. It'll be a 2-lap shootout to decide stage number 1 here from Phoenix. 25 cars left on the racetrack, and 21 of those are on the lead lap. Here we go, back to the green. Burton leads him back to the green flag. And Jeff Gordon is not even in this top 10, but he rockets around the 70 of Johnny Sauter almost immediately. There are some slower cars that stayed out that happen to still be on the lead lap. Earnhardt Jr., Reagan, Marlin going down pit road, so something's wrong with them. As we come to the white flag in stage number 1. Burton leads us to the white flag in the first stage, but Edwards looks low. Could Gordon still mount a charge? Through 1 and 2 for the final time in stage 1. It's Carl Edwards with the lead. Matt Kenseth into second now. But it will be Carl Edwards who wins stage number 1 for Phoenix. Edwards wins stage 1, Gordon second, Kenseth third. And then it's Burton, Truex, Busch, Harvick, Johnson, Hamlin, Biffle. And Edwards stays out, so does Johnson. The pace car has just flown down pit road and has gotten stuck against the pit wall, as if this race couldn't get any weirder than it currently is. The pace car is now wall riding against the inside pit wall. It's going to take this gap, and then I think it'll come out onto the racetrack. Yeah, that's all that'll happen. Like I said, as if this race couldn't get any weirder. What will the pace car do? The field is trying to slow down to let the pace car by. Pace car finally gets by everyone else. It's time for them to sort out the order. But it seems that Jimmy Johnson is in the race lead. I guess Edwards came down pit road eventually. David Reagan gets the free pass. So wherever David Reagan is right now, he will be back on the lead lap for the restart. And we have got 1 lap to green, and Jimmy Johnson is the race leader with Robbie Gordon in the 2nd spot. So, to refresh, the cars out of the race: Martin, Boyer, McMurray, Yaley, Montoya, Green, Kane, Mears, Sorensen, Riggs, Stremme, Nemechek, Blaney, Waltrip, Rudd, Dale Jarrett, Gillen, and Rudeman. And the green flag is back out. Johnson leads us in the 1. Still some slower traffic here towards the front. And you see that with the field dicing for position. Gordon down pit road. Jeff Gordon has an issue. Is it something similar to what his teammate Jimmy Johnson had? Because now the dominant car of the day is in the pit road. We'll keep tabs on this as Johnson is scooting away with the race lead already, with Robbie Gordon in 2nd. Kyle Busch moves up in the 2nd now. Kenseth following him. Will Jeff Gordon get lapped the 2nd time by teammate Jimmy Johnson? I think this is his 1st lap down, actually. Yep, so Gordon is now 1 lap down, and he's going to get passed by Sterling Marlin, who is still on the racetrack. So Gordon may have had a tire going flat, because now he is back out onto the racetrack. But it's Johnson leading by 1.5 over Kyle Busch. And will we see green flag pit stops this time around? Harvick contact with Robbie Gordon on turn number 2. They run 3 wide down the back straightaway. Kenseth going to make a move on Kyle Busch for position number 2. And he'll clear for it as they go off turn number 2. Edwards side by side with Burton. Where's Tony Stewart, who went for a slide earlier? He is currently battling for 15th with Schrader. But Hamlin doesn't seem to be too damaged after that incident, because he's running up in the top 5 still. You can imagine that this is for the lead, but nope, it is for P2 on the racetrack. As now Truex looking to make a move on Kenseth. And Johnson got lucky there that Robbie Gordon was towards the front, because it gave him a buffer. But he's going to get even more of a buffer if these guys keep battling so hard for 2nd. As the field continues around. It's Kenseth with P2 now, Hamlin trailing him. Gordon now trying to charge through the field. Tony Rain's about to go a lap down, so that's going to make Gordon's job today a little harder, because he needs to go all the way around again, lap Tony Raines. He's going to pass Tony Raines this time. No problem there. And then he's going to have to do it again because Johnson's probably going to catch this 96 car. Hamlin has moved into second now. And Hamlin's starting to drive away from Kenseth and company. Let's see how much the 11 can gain on Jimmy Johnson here, if any. Tony Raines about to get lapped by the 48. He's going very slowly. But Johnson now gets by Tony Raines to put him a lap down. He's going to get by Saddle as well, who's already on the lead lap. So that makes Tony Raines the first car 1 lap down. And then there'll be Kyle Petty, Tony Stewart, Schrader. So Gordon may be trapped a lap down for the rest of tonight. We'll see what happens though. It'll be something interesting to keep an eye on. Johnson just extending his lead lap by lap even if he's in traffic. Johnson leads him down the back straightaway, ahead of Hamlin, ahead of Kenseth. Hamlin is about a second ahead of Matt Kenseth. And then it's Kenseth, Stewart, Kyle Busch battling for the 3rd position. Ryan Newman, after flipping earlier, is back up to 6th. So even after that big wreck, no true contenders were taken out of the race. Maybe Martin and Boyer from the top 10, but other than that, mostly backmarkers that got involved in that one. Also means less traffic for Jimmy Johnson to navigate, as Biffle and Kurt Busch are battling for 2nd. Kyle Petty now going a lap down, so that's another car Gordon has to pass. And then cars he has to pass is just going to grow as Johnson catches Schrader, Wallace, Stoddard, Stewart. So there's about 30 laps to go until stage number 2 comes to a close. Hamlin 4.5 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson. But that was because he got caught in lap traffic, and Johnson had clean air all to himself since the drop of the green flag for this previous restart. Bonnie keeps going in and out of pit road, so we'll see what's up with that. Now, how much of a favor will Stewart be willing to do Hamlin by holding Johnson up just a little bit? Because Hamlin wrecked Stewart there a couple of restarts ago. Not at all. He's just going to let Johnson go. Not happy with Hamlin. But Hamlin gets by Petty. And Johnson got really slowed up behind the 70 of Johnny Sauter there for a moment. So we'll see how much he gains as Johnson going to get by Kenny Wallace now to put him a lap down. And then we'll put Schrader a lap down and probably within the next lap. We'll see how much Hamlin gained that lap. Only 2/10, even with Johnson getting hung up behind Sauter. And Johnson has gotten completely through this group. Now Hominard, no, he will not be in the next one. Gordon has gotten around Tony Raines for position. So Tony Raines is probably about to go another lap down. Robbie Gordon is the next one on the list to be lapped by Jimmy Johnson. If we don't get another caution, that is. Let's see how Hamlin navigates this traffic. As Stewart makes a move on Sauter. And Hamlin's pulled out to 3 seconds ahead of Truex, Busch, Kenseth, that little group he was running with. So when we get a restart here for stage 3, we'll see how much quicker Hamlin is than Johnson, if at all. But he's going to get caught out right here with these two battling side by side. Or maybe not, he'll send it free wide on his teammate Tony Stewart and Jody Sauter. And now Hamlin has to navigate these last two cars, Wallace and Schrader. Hamlin lets him know he wants the low lane, and he's going to take the low lane here through 1 and 2. And it looks like Johnson got held up a little bit by Tony Raines in the 96 and Paul Menard in the 15, so we'll see if Hamlin actually gained anything that lap. No, he lost a little bit. But Hamlin's life is a little easier when these lap cars already get passed by Jimmy Johnson in the 48 as he gets slowed up by Raines a little bit there off turn number 2, since they'll be more willing to let him by. I see he actually lost half a second by getting held up by Tony Raines. Robbie Gordon is the next one to go a lap down, and then it'll be Greg Biffle, David Reagan, Kurt Busch, and then Gordon may be able to pass Marlin on merit here. Johnson now coming to lap Robbie Gordon here as we are about 20 laps from the stage end here from Phoenix. Bobby O'Bonney currently 14 laps down. He probably won't be in victory lane today. Now Hamlin closing in on Paul Menard to lap him. And now Truex seemed to be driving away from that group of him, Kenseth and Busch, but now he is being caught a little bit by them because of lap traffic, but lap traffic is also going to help him pull away as Kyle Busch and Kenseth run side by side. He's going to use the 78 as a pick, Kyle Busch is. And we think that is Kurt Busch on pit road, potentially. Yep, so that is the 2 car of Kurt Busch currently down pit road. Could this be a strategy call from the 2? As Hamlin's put Robbie Gordon a lap down. Or that's not Hamlin, that's Johnson. Reagan and Biffle, the next one on Johnson's list of the lap, and then it's a little ways up the road with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 10th spot. So we may be lapping up to P11 here. I don't know if Johnson will get to Earnhardt Jr. to lap him, but he most definitely will get these 2 Roush cars. It's about 26 seconds per lap. So it's a possibility. But also pit stops could shake things up in terms of who stays on the lead lap or not. And obviously maybe another caution. We shall see. And now Johnson's going to have to force it free wide here on the apron to get by David Reagan and Kyle Petty. Petty now going 2 laps down. As Hamlin is 5 seconds behind Johnson. Robbie Gordon coming to pit road now. So pit stops are starting to begin. Oh, trouble! Oh, Gordon gets caught up in it. Caution flag is out. Well, those who were hoping for the caution got their yellow, got their wish. Jeff Gordon goes from Jeff Gordon's day goes from bad to worse. Johnson gonna come down pit road. Biffle gonna get the free pass. And here comes everyone else down pit road. Now Will Johnson went off pit road because he is pitted so far back that Hamlin has time to get out ahead of him. And that's the downside of qualifying poorly for Jimmy Johnson. But I think he was so far ahead that he'll be out ahead of Hamlin. Yeah, he will. Comfortably, but if that was a bit closer of a gap, then that would have been much more interesting to watch. Let's take a look at what happened to Jeff Gordon. I know all of his fans here in the chat probably not happy of what happened to him, but let's take a look at it. It was Johnny Sauter and Ken Schrader battling. Schrader starts to come down the racetrack and he gets contact with Sauter. They spin up, nowhere for Jeff Gordon to go. He was just a victim of circumstance right there. And Robbie Gordon actually took the wave around, so he will also be back on the lead lap. It claims Tony Stewart is a lap down. That should not be the case. Oh, yeah, Tony Stewart should be a lap down. Greg Biffle, though, should not be, considering he just got the free pass. So we'll work that out. And it seems Biffle may have a mechanical issue, actually. So tough break for Greg Biffle, who just got the free pass, comes down pit road and has a mechanical issue. Out of his control. But still. But now we have one lap to green. There'll be 11 cars on the lead lap. There will actually be 12 once we do get the restart. Green flag back in the air. Johnson once again leads us to it. And what's going to be interesting is this battle for the free pass. Sterling Marlin and David Reagan right now. They're going to run high up the hill. Marlin had to check up. Here comes Gordon. How much damage does the 24 have? Reagan wants to hold on to this free pass to keep Jeff Gordon a lap down. Hamlin looking low on Johnson for the lead. Can he get to the inside? We thought that 11 was a little better than the 48 on that last run, but just wasn't close enough to do anything because of the traffic he got caught in on the restart. Let's see if Hamlin can do anything with Johnson. They're going to both drive it off hard into turn 1. Meanwhile, back at the battle for the free pass, it's Sterling Marlin who has taken that away. Now Jeff Gordon battling David Reagan as Marlin trying to go away with the free pass. And almost contact with Kenseth and Harvick there off turn 2. Johnson starting to drive away a little bit with the race lead now. Lap 86 is when we get the checkered flag for this stage. Johnson dominating over Hamlin and Truex. It hasn't been all great for Johnson. He was trapped a lap down earlier, just like his teammate Jeff Gordon currently is. And it looks ever so unlikely by the lap that Gordon will get back on the lead lap unless he takes the wave around. Hamlin up the hill trying to search for some clean air. May have also slid up to avoid Bobby Labonte in the 43. As they head down the back straightaway, Johnson now stretching his legs ahead of Hamlin. Probably about a second ahead now. 0.8 of a second ahead for Jimmy Johnson. But they will catch some lap traffic here before the end of this stage potentially. So Hamlin, what can he do with that? Kyle Busch battling someone who flipped earlier for 4th spot. And Sterling Marlin still has the free pass position. Hamlin way up the racetrack for 1 and 2. 5 to go in stage 2. And again, Johnson has that really bad pit selection, which could cost him several spots here when we do pit again, because he's not going to have some massive 5-second lead ahead of Denny Hamlin. He may not even have the lead if he gets hung up too so badly in traffic. As Johnson comes off turn number 2. He's going to have maybe 3 or 4 cars to navigate here before we get to the stage end. First one is Tony Raines in the 96. He's going to get a little held up here on 1 and 2. The 96 is going to go wide here. Now what Hamlin needs to do is be next to the 96 by turn 3. And he's not going to. He let the 96 get clear. That is huge for Jimmy Johnson. Hamlin loses 0.5 of a second from that. 3 to go in stage 2. Side by side ahead of Jimmy Johnson, 2 lap cars, Menard and Sadler. He may catch more than that. Tons of lap traffic potentially ahead for Jimmy Johnson. Or does he play it safe? Knows he has the stage win and just rides behind. No, he wants to put some of these guys a lap down still. Or another lap down, I should say. Here we come though. White flag in stage number 2. Johnson leads him down into 1. He's dominated this stage as his teammate Jeff Gordon fell out of contention, and Jimmy Johnson is going to come around the final turn to win stage number 2 in Phoenix. Johnson over Hamlin and Truex. And Marlin is going to get the free pass. Now you'll see what I spoke about with Johnson, because Hamlin is only 2.5 seconds back this time. Kurt Busch is out of the race with a suspension issue. So there's Johnson getting his service. And then we'll see what Denny Hamlin can do, what his pit crew can do. But it is a very long pit road. But I think Johnson's still going to come out ahead of Hamlin. Yes, he will. Seems to be bad to stop for Hamlin. Newman's going to get out in the second. And Sterling Marlin, your free pass. So now he gets to overtake everyone to get back on the lead lap. And then several stayed out and took the wave around. So your free pass and 3 cars who took the wave around by staying out here under this yellow. And it'll be just over 50 laps to go here in Phoenix. Johnson ahead of Newman and Harvick. As they come around turn 3 and 4 to take the green flag again. Green flag back in the air. Hamlin forcing it free wide on Newman and Harvick. Free wide in the turn 1, Newman in the wall. They may not be done here. Are we going to see 4 wide? Kyle Busch going free wide for 3rd. Everyone going for every position. And the caution comes out. We seem to have had a spin down here towards turn number 1. And that is the 15 of Paul Menard. He got turned by the 19 of Elliott Sadler. Let's take another look at it, because that is an odd spot to spin. Menard seems to have a late blocked, and Sadler wasn't going to have any of it. But Johnson is down pit road with Newman and, Kenseth and Marlin. So an odd pit strategy. I don't see the beneficial value behind that. Maybe Jimmy Johnson knows something we don't about pit strategy. Or is he out of the race? Oh no, he just stopped at pit exit. Okay. The free pass is going to go to Jeff Gordon, so he'll be back on the lead lap. So Gordon may be able to contend for a top 10, but probably won't be in any sort of contention for the race win. And now the lap guys are going to pit. And Jimmy Johnson is going to be all the way back to 10th. So this is Hamlin's opportunity to run away with the race lead, or hope that Johnson gets caught up in some sort of incident. Because now Hamlin has the upper hand on pit strategy, staying out longer, but Johnson will have to stop shorter. And as iterated before, Kenseth and Sterling Marlin also pitted with Jimmy Johnson. So now Hamlin's going to have control of the race, but for how long? As they come through 3 and 4 and back to the green flag. Green flag back in the air. And it's a great jump from Hamlin. Now let's keep an eye on Jimmy Johnson in the 48. How long does it take? Johnson down pit road. Johnson has some sort of issue. This may have just given Hamlin the win. Johnson, some sort of issue. He's down pit road. Let's take a look. And it doesn't seem like anything happened. He just came down. Did they not get a lug tie? Could this race take any more turns? It probably could if it wanted to. Because we've seen a problem for all of the dominant cars tonight. Hamlin now extending his lead over Kyle Busch in second. Edwards in the wall here in 1 and 2. Gonna cost him a few positions. Johnson is going to be back on the racetrack now, but 1 lap down. So the best car of the night is probably out of contention for the race win. And how can Hamlin navigate traffic? How can Kyle Busch get up to Hamlin? Questions left to be answered, as Hamlin is just a little quicker than Kyle Busch, about a 10th a lap right now. Now, will Johnson get involved in the crash and basically hand Hamlin the win? As we're coming around to 41 laps to go, here from Phoenix. And they're going to be 3 wide back here. They were 3 wide momentarily. Burton, Earnhardt Jr., and Harvick. Reagan up the hill getting by Gordon, but Reagan is unfortunately a lap down still. Needs another caution to be back in it. "12 cars currently on the lead lap. Truex now chasing Kyle Busch up the hill. They're going to go for second. Truex looking inside on the 5 of Kyle Busch, can't quite get it. That cost him half a second just from fighting that little bit. But Truex thinks he's faster than the 5. As they come through turns 1 and 2 again. Truex all over the back bumper of Kyle Busch. He may get a good run here off 4. No, he cannot get a good run. He's going to dive low here through turn 1 and 2. Maybe going to use the 19 of Sadler as a pick. Where will Sadler go? Truex stays low. Sadler going to go high off 2. But Truex is going to get stuck behind Elliott Sadler in the 19 for 3 and 4. Here comes Kyle Busch again. And they are costing each other chunks of time. And they need to realize this. So now Kyle Busch is going to be on the bumper of the 1 down into turn 1 and 2. They're probably going to be 3 seconds back now from Hamlin. Yep, just about 3 seconds. So they've cost themselves a second and a half from fighting so hard for second. And it isn't exactly cakewalk now for Hamlin, because he could have an issue in pit road, or be undercut by one of these cars behind him. Hamlin chasing down Johnny Sauter in the 70 to put him another lap down. Kenny Wallace in the 78, way up the racetrack. Hamlin got held up by Sauter a little bit, so Busch and Truex don't lose too much time from getting stuck behind the 78 car. But Truex is still putting the pressure on the 5. As Hamlin inches in on 30 laps to go from Phoenix. And they gained a little bit that lap. Truex side by side with Busch as they head through 1 and 2. Busch going to cut back low for 3 and 4. They're both going to easily get by Johnny Sauter in the 70. Hamlin now gets around Kyle Petty and Ken Schrader. Here to put them a lap down. Another lap down, that is. As we continue to focus on this battle between the 1 and the 5 for second place. Truex wants it, Busch has it. Truex is going to look low again in turn 1 and 2. He wants to be clear of Busch before they get to the lap cars. Busch way wide through the corner. Truex is going to clear. Busch immediately going to look back low. There's contact between the 1 and 5. Busch almost turned Truex around down the front straightaway. They get around the 45 of Kyle Petty. Truex inching away from Kyle Busch. Now what can Truex do to set chase after Hamlin? He's about 4 seconds back, 4.3 back. But Hamlin's got lap cars to navigate. Truex way up the hill. Through 1 and 2, Kyle Busch back to his back bumper. Can't quite do anything. That cost him 0.6 of a second that lap. And how mad is Stewart at Hamlin still? Does he do anything to mess with his teammate? No, he does not. He just lets Hamlin go. Maybe drives it in on the top to tell him he's number 1, but I think Hamlin already knows he's running P1. 5 seconds back to Martin Truex Jr. in second. All Hamlin wants to see is green flag to the finish. David Reagan would like to see a caution flag so he could get back on the lead lap before Jimmy Johnson catches up to him. And obviously, Hamlin doesn't want to see a caution because Johnson's probably going to be the first car lap. Oh, contact. Hamlin got into Tony Raines right there while lapping him. But Hamlin knows that if there's a caution, Johnson gets by the 6. Johnson's your free pass car. He's still got no damage. He can go for the race win still. Assuming everything goes his way. Assuming he has enough time left in the race. But Hamlin could always have a mechanical failure. Get passed by Truex through pit strategy. But I don't know what undercut could gain you 5 seconds here, especially at Phoenix. Maybe the undercut of the power of friendship? Truex now going to get by Tony Brains, who just cuts down and holds him up. No harm, no foul. Johnson is going to be the first car lap down pretty soon as he gets by David Reagan. Truex 5.2 back. And he's trying to slice down next to Menard. Truex gets ahead. 5.6 seconds the gap now. And there's a huge gaggle of cars up here. There's the cars Gordon wrecked with. But they will have to pit again. And I was curious about that pit strategy with Matt Kenseth and Sterling Marlin and Jimmy Johnson. That last caution comes out first lap of the stage. But they still have a bit more fuel in their cars. Johnson probably has the most fuel out of anyone out here. So the 48 could still probably go get a good run. And he's running 26 flats. Hamlin is out here running 26 fours. So Johnson is still 0.4 of a second faster than the leader per lap. And I guess this could be one of your first normal winners of the season, Denny Hamlin. Kenseth won at Atlanta, but you saw how wild that finish got. And then you saw David Gillen win at Daytona. David Gillen cannot catch a break. He is free. One win, 3 DNFs in a row. And he's probably going to be out of the chase now, because that's 2 finishes where he has 1 point from today. David Reagan comes down pit road. This may be the start of the pit cycle. Here as they come. Let's see if anyone else comes down. Newman's going to pit. Burton Edwards, Earnhardt Jr. Sterling Marlin stays out. So does Matt Kenseth. Hamlin's down pit road for what will be his final stop of the day, and Martin Truex Jr. takes the lead now. Now, is his plan to trap the 11 a lap down, potentially? Let's see what this one car does. He's going to come down pit road this time, but Kenseth will stay out another lap. And Kenseth will probably lap Denny Hamlin here. Yep, there's Kenseth around the 17 car, around the 11 car to put him a lap down. Now can Kenseth save enough fuel to stay out to the end to get to the checkers? Sterling Marlin is still out here. And the caution is out. Kenseth just got his lucky break. Are you for real? Dream scenario for Matt Kenseth in the 17 as Tony Stewart in the 20 gets turned around by Paul Menard. Stewart was trying to come to pit road and Menard just hit checks him. So the caution comes out. And obviously since Kenseth and Marlin are both going to pit, that's going to allow all these guys that are staying out back onto the lead lap. So like this. And then all these guys that are still staying out. So a bunch of cars taking the wave around to be on the lead lap for this restart. But Kenseth out in front. And we're going to extend the yellow by a lap so everything can get sorted out. There with the lap cars. 9 cars on the lead lap for this restart. Kenseth leads with Truex behind them. This could be big for Martin Truex Jr. if he can get by Kenseth on the restart. And Johnson will be back on the lead lap and back in this if we get another yellow. Less than 10 to go for Phoenix. This race has been full of twists and turns, and it isn't even over quite yet. Here we go. Kenseth leads us back to the green. Bad restart for him, and Busch is going to jump by him. So is Newman potentially, and Jeff Burton. Busch jumping inside of Hamlin as Hamlin's going to get stalled up by Sterling Marlin here on the top line. Around goes the 29 of Kevin Harvick. So the caution will fly again. Martin Truex Jr. as your race leader. Oh boy. Johnson's back on the lead lap for this one. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. has retired from the race, so he'll get a couple spots lost. We're going to go green. With 4 laps to go. Truex has the lead. Green flag back in the air. 4 to go for Truex. What can Kyle Busch do in the 5? Johnson getting held up further back. Truex with the advantage for now. Here comes Kyle Busch on the inside though. Kyle Busch trying to make it stick. 3 laps to go from Phoenix. Johnson's not out of this either. Coming around now. 2 laps to go. Hamlin looking on the inside. Low here in the free. Hamlin's coming with a run. push box the 11 of hammer. Now the two to go, and the caution's gonna fly again.